I was in Bowling Green, Kentucky just a couple of days ago. There are a group of appraisers. I talked about it on a prior podcast. Chris Stewart, MAI over there, kind of facilitates a group of appraisers coming together and just chatting. I think it's a monthly thing. And they had a small group. There were, I think, 6 or so. Last month they had a dozen or so. But I think they reach out to 30 or so appraisers. And it's just different sizes depending on what you have going on that day. And I got me a cup of coffee and we were sitting over and having a conversation about a lot of things in our profession, a lot of things regarding appraising and what the landscape looks like and business. And somehow the topic got on AI. We were talking about ChatGPT and just artificial intelligence and that AI, not the other AI. Artificial intelligence, that's the gist of this conversation right now. And we were talking about it, and they asked me, and I said, I use it a little bit. I don't use it anywhere as near as I should. I have a thirst for knowledge. I want to learn more about it. My buddy Jason is really trying to learn about it and implement it. And I use it, and I use it probably on a daily basis, but certainly nowhere near what I could. And guys, it's coming. It's coming. It's coming. The train is coming, and you can either let it run by or you can try and jump on board. There was a gentleman that was not an appraiser. He was over. I think he had his kid with him, and they were typing away. And he finally just said, "Hey, I'm sorry, I was eavesdropping a little bit, but you need to do this." I was like, who is this guy? I'm like, I need to do what? Because we were talking in a prior podcast, if you remember, if you didn't see it, go back and watch them. Had my business partner, Hal and I was talking, and he said he was doing a study on research on soil regenerification and got into ChatGPT and maybe some other AI services and started asking questions. And it said, I need some case studies. And it provided him some really good stuff. And he's like, how did I not find this? I've been looking for months, So then he said, what is your source, AI? And AI said, I made it up. And he said, what? Why would you do that? And AI said, I'm sorry, it was very unethical of me to do so. AI was telling him that. Well, I met a guy, and he said, he gave me an acronym, and I can't even remember what it is. I wrote it down, but guess what? I don't have to remember because he's on the program, and you're going to get to meet him when we come back. Have you ever thought about mastering something? Mastering an art, or, I've done martial arts, mastering the arts, or mastering math, or mastering a topic, science. Well, this guy that's his title. He's a worldwide master trainer for Microsoft. And when you come back, you get to meet him. Hi, this is Brian Reynolds. You're listening to the Appraisal Update Podcast, brought to you as always by the great folks over at Appraiser eLearning. You need some education? Check us out at appraisereLearning.com. You'll be glad you did. If you're watching us on YouTube, you'll get to see us in action. So if you're not, jump over there. Be sure you hit the subscribe button so you're in the know. We have breaking news alerts all the time. You'll get a little ding on your phone when a new podcast drops. So go over to YouTube, search appraisereLearning.com and hit that subscribe button right now. Now, without further delay, I'm going to bring in this worldwide master trainer, Mr. Brian Govatos. I may have messed that up, but welcome,
Perfect.
Brian.
Thank you so much, Brian, for having me. And I'm so sorry that you are Brian with a Y. As you know, the two of us, us camps, we can hardly get along, but we'll make it work today.
Hey, I got it right. My mama will love me. I don't know about yours.
See, so already the tension is rising. There's some conflict in the room. As you gave that intro, it did remind me just how rude I was at that coffee shop.
No,
so I'm
not
glad you guys were. It's one of those things, right? It's just become one of those things where if I feel like I'm working with Henry Ford in this thing called the automobile, and I'm sitting around people who are horse and buggy folks, and I don't mean that as a condescension. I mean truly, this is what it feels like, and people are saying, I've heard these stories about these motor cars, and I think they can go what a mile tops, and you just want to bust in and be like, no, you don't understand. This is Nothing is going to be the same after the next couple of years happens.
It's
So
going to
I've been
change your
true.
world, right? It's going to change your,
It just
you know,
is.
it's funny you say that, Brian, because I thought just the other day about cell phones.
Yeah,
And I thought, oh yeah, I got pulled over once, and it wasn't because I was drunk. It was because I was texting, and it's when
that's right.
texting first came out, and I think I had a
Yeah,
flip phone. I'm texting
you're
on. No
T9 texting.
no
Yeah.
wonder, And so I'm glad I don't text and drive anymore. Very very seldom.
Officer.
Yeah, if there's any law enforcement watching this program, but I thought about that, and I thought, yeah, I remember when we didn't have cell phones. And there's a whole generation right now that they feel like they can't survive without it. That's how powerful and amazing those are. And we're going to talk about something in a minute here that is probably a bigger deal than that. And I want you to chime in here. But before we do, Brian, introduce yourself. I called you a worldwide master trainer. I don't know what that is, but let my audience know a little bit about Mr. Bryan with an I.
So these are those titles that corporate America throws around to try to make their portfolio of people sound even more impressive than they are. I've been working with Microsoft and a couple other big names that you'd recognize, HP, Google, Samsung, Lenovo, but primarily with Microsoft. And it's been to be a master trainer just means understand the product knowledge, but more importantly, understand how to convey it to people who aren't experts. So my whole career has been spent starting off as a nerd in high school and being involved in tech, and then actually focusing on theater performance. I performed and taught improv comedy in Las Vegas. Hold on, I promise. Stick with me, everyone. So performance and theater plus tech. That has been my combination to arrive where I am now, which is someone who gets on stage and communicates the important stuff about what's going on in your phones, what's going on in Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, what's going on in the world of Windows and PCs and computers. So my job is to take a message and translate it and make it digestible. And that's why I'm geeking out over AI, because what I'm seeing right now, Brian, is just a vast ignorance that is it's powerful, to be honest. The level of ignorance is incredible.
And I'm in that camp. I think most human, most of it. So let my audience know how this happened. You chimed in and you were telling us about something that would help me try and prevent AI from lying, and we'll get to that. Let's not even get to that yet. And I've got it because I sent it to Jason, and I sent it to Jason as a note for myself. And a couple of other things, I sent notes and then I screenshot it. So I've got them. But before we get to that, I want to let my audience in on something. And Brian, just to let you know, I have an audience of mostly appraisers, but we have real estate agents, we have regulatory officials, we have non-appraisers, we have lenders and bankers and AMCs, and we have a pretty wide audience, and we've got folks from across the ocean that listens in occasionally too. Mm-hmm. So we got a pretty wide audience. So I think this will hit home with a bunch of them. Mm-hmm. But what was interesting, so all of those that are already regular listeners or viewers know that we don't, this is not scripted. I mean, you have no idea what I'm about to ask you because there isn't a script, and you did theater and acting a little bit. Sometimes there is improv, but regular acting there is. And that's what makes some of my guests a little nervous or afraid. But I think that's why my audience kind of can relate to this, because it is just a live conversation with an audience, right? There's no script, there's no rehearsal. We haven't rehearsed. Right. But in all fairness, I got that noise. It's driving me crazy. See, it's live. It's recorded, but it's live.
Perfect timing, yeah.
So Brian said, I know this is just live in a conversation, but can you shoot me a couple of talking points or bulleted items? But this is what he said. And I said, sure. And Brian, now I'm going to be transparent with you. I got into ChatGPT. And I typed a narrative, and I said, okay, I'm going to interview this guy, and this is what we want to talk about. And can you just give me a couple of talking points? And it gave me a big long thing, and I'm like, oh, I'm not sending him that. So I said, all I typed was more concise. Boom. That's right. And that's what I sent you. So
that's right.
I'm going to ask you a couple of these talking points that ChatGPT took my intellectual knowledge, if you will,
yes,
and fixed it, made it bulleted items like you asked for, and made it more concise. The
Brian,
very first one
can I preempt? Yeah. Can I preempt this?
Sure,
this
absolutely.
Is it. You're diving right onto the point. Hello, out there, listening, watching. Look at me. You may be of the mindset right now that this is going to take away my thought process. I'm not gonna let some chatbot give me ideas. No, listen. There's that movie called The Devil Wears Prada with Meryl Streep and Anne Hathaway, and she's this big fashion mogul in New York City. And the whole point of the movie is the role of that assistant and how important that assistant is, and how much work the assistant does to make the main character, the mogul, the important person, shine. The work that you're doing is telling the assistant what you need. The work that Brian just outlined there is going into ChatGPT and perhaps writing in a longer prompt than what it is actually delivering back. It's just making sense of your ideas and your questions and giving it to you in a way that is appropriate for the scenario. So is it thinking for us? No. It is your co-pilot on the journey. So because I know, Brian, when people are out there saying like, what? He used ChatGPT to ask. He couldn't even think of his own questions to ask. No, quite the contrary.
Like, well, they weren't thinking that until you just said that, Brian.
Now they know the truth. But you're going to your assistant, your executive assistant, saying, "Here's my ideas. Format it in a way that makes sense and shoot it back to me." Great.
I shared this with Brian at the coffee shop, and I'll just say it now. I'm not really a writer. I'm not. I'm a talker, and folks that know me know that. And Dr. George Harrison said, Brian, how many people, and this was before podcasts, right? How many people you reach a year or so? And that was when I was just teaching, and those were live classes. And I said, I don't know, 1,000, 1,500 people. He said,
yeah.
He said, this magazine has a subscription of 40,000 people. Think if you wrote an article. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And then an author in a book, he's quoted as saying, Dr. Sanders Khan said, if you're unhappy with any of the writings in this publication, do yourself a favor, make yourself happy. Write an article that stirs you, and it will stir others. And I got to thinking about that. I thought, thanks, Dr. Khan. Thanks, Dr. Harrison. I'm going to write an article. But I told every magazine that would publish them, I need a strong editor because I'm not a writer. I'm a talker. Well, guess what? I don't, because ChatGPT can be my strong editor now. It's taking my words and my knowledge. So let's get to the talking points real quick, Brian. Here we go. Number one, what is AI and ChatGPT, and what is it not?
Yes. It is not. I think it's better to start with what it isn't. It is not original thought. It is, listen, despite all the Terminator films and despite even the headlines you're seeing on CNN and Fox News, and you're watching all this stuff about AI taking over, and AI is one of the recent ones is AI just tried to blackmail a scientist and tried to turn itself off and all that stuff. That all makes for delicious headlines, no doubt. But there's not original thought happening with these large language models, these LLMs. They're trained on how these chatbots, whether it's ChatGPT, whether it's Grok, whether it's Microsoft's Copilot, they're trained on how humans have interacted. They're trained on huge data sets of back and forth, of online forums, of transcripts, of books, of repositories of information, encyclopedias, all that stuff. So all of the knowledge is there, but how you access it is by your prompt. I'm telling you, your ability to prompt effectively is the currency of the next coming years. People who know how to prompt, because what it is just access to knowledge, but it's not original knowledge.
I love it. So it's at the end of the day, it's a tool. It's a tool that we as human beings can use. And, I'm talking mostly to appraisers here, and it certainly can help you, but it can help all human beings, right? In a variety of manners. All right, so let's get into that. Number 2 was, how can it save time, like addendas, emails, and summaries?
The answer is staggeringly. This is it. Okay, so AI is not going to take your job, folks, but someone who knows how to use AI absolutely will and probably should. Like this is where we are, okay? Because the efficiency conversation is so powerful. Think of it this way. The year is 1997, and your colleagues are all starting to get involved in this wild thing called the internet, and they're posting their newsletters and they're sending emails to their clients. And you're thinking, all right, okay, nerds. I know pen and paper is what matters. I'm gonna type it out on my typewriter and send it. This is what matters most. The lack of efficiency in typing it out, printing it, sending it via mail versus sending the email out to 1,000 people at once for free, that's the difference here between using AI and just choosing to let it whiz by you. Think about, to answer your question, Brian, I would like to put this on everyone out there listening. Think about those parts of your job, those parts of your day that are mundane and busy work. Think about the hours you spend, probably a solid hour a day at least, of cross-referencing. What was the file? What's the list of addresses? Who's got that? Who's got the reference sheet for that? No, I'm talking about the property in Belmont, not the property in all those tiny little moments that take you off of your main goal, of your main project. Think about if those were all but eliminated, what that would mean for your day in the life, for your week in the life, for your output. Because that's what someone who's investing in AI, investing in learning about AI, that's what they're able to effectively automate.
So you said something that I'm going to repeat before this program's over, but not yet.
Sure.
All right. The third one, and guys, this is 5, so we're halfway through, right? The third one is research help without replacing judgment. And this is where I want to pull in what you told me at the coffee shop, right?
Yeah.
And it was, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but it was GECS, GECS. So everybody listening, don't have a wreck, but if you're driving and listening, but everyone else, write this down. GECS, goal, expectation, context, and source. And if Hal, you're watching, write that down, because when you have AI lie to you, this will help you prevent that from happening. And so I'm super excited about this because I don't want AI lying to me and making stuff up. We use, Brian, in our business, we use the term credible a lot, which we use Black's Law Dictionary. It's in USPAP has a defined term of it as well. It's just worthy of belief. That's what credible means. And we talk about our appraisals, right? When we do real estate appraisals, they need to result in credible analysis, credible opinions, believable opinions. So when I ask AI something, I want credible results instead of incredible results, right? So talk about research help without judgment, and maybe this is a good time to talk about GECS.
Yeah. So when I talk about the art of the prompt, I'm talking about that time when you pull up ChatGPT, Copilot, whatever, and you are saying, hello, here's what I need, right? Number one, communicate like it's an executive assistant. Don't communicate it like it's Google. Okay. You don't just want to be like top 10 appraisals in such and such county no. That's a Google search. What you want is to say, hi, I am an appraiser in Clark County, Nevada. I have been tasked with doing X, Y, and Z by my client or by my managers or whatever. What I'm looking for is the following information. So that's my expectation. So I've given it my context, and I've given it a goal and my expectations. Now the source, I will add to that prompt and say, only reference data from this website, this website, and this PDF. Great. You've given it its source for truth. So the GECS is goal, expectation, context, source. As long as you got 3 of those, you're gonna be just fine.
Yeah.
You tell it what's your goal. Why are you even having this conversation? Again, think of it like that executive assistant who's working alongside of you. Jimmy, I need this, but be sure it's like that. and I need it formatted in a 3-page newsletter and only get information from the following case law studies. Boop, bop, 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 bop. Okay, got it. That's when your mind gets blown, because you see that it responds in kind. It
Right.
responds in kind.
And Brian, I ask you at the coffee shop, you know, part of my problem would be with that is, what if I don't, you know, you said reference the sources, so it has a very narrow scope, right?
Yeah.
It's looking
Yeah.
at sources that you believe are credible. So you're
Yep.
you're controlling that, which I absolutely love, and it makes perfect sense to me. But some of the challenges that I would have, and I think others, some of my viewers might have, is, God, I don't know what the sources are. I have no idea. How do I tell it what sources when I don't know what the sources are? And you answered me, and I want you to answer that for my audience here today.
It's a great question. And that, you still don't ignore the S. Always include source. Even if you don't have a specific source, here's what you say. For every claim you give me, so here I need documents about let's say home sales in Clark County, Nevada from January 2022. Okay, great. For every reference you give me, provide the source that you got that information from. That's all you have to add. Provide an appendix of citations. It will do it. And sometimes, this is what Brian talked about at the beginning, there is such a phenomenon, and we could spend an hour talking about this, my God, called AI hallucination. Why it's interesting is that the people who develop AI are not sure why it happens. Think about that for a minute. If you write a piece of computer code, if the website doesn't load properly, the website developer knows, oh, it's because I put in the wrong code, the image isn't, but they can troubleshoot why. For AI hallucination, there really is no troubleshooting. It's a wild west out there still. It's a wild frontier. But
like an unsupervised child sometimes, right?
It can be. So your best bet is to provide those guardrails in the prompt. And if it provides you a source, it's of course up to you. You are the throat to choke in this scenario. Okay, AI is never going to get sued. You will get sued.
That's right.
So it's up to you to verify. It's saying that this data, that the average sale price was $1.3 million in this county for this month. How can that be? Click on the source. The source goes to chuckecheese.com.
Wait a minute. Yeah. Well, one of the things that you said also, which I thought was a great idea, is, so I'm in a situation and I don't know what sources are available. Just say what sources are available on this particular topic, and then boom, it provides you sources, and then you could say, okay, it gave me 25 sources, and half of them are junk. I'm going to use these top 10 that I think are credible sources, and now I'm going to ask it the question citing these top 10 sources, right? So you're in the driver's seat there. I love that. But everybody needs to remember that GECS, goal, expectation, content, source. Do you pretty much put that in every inquiry you make?
Yes, and it doesn't have to be long. It doesn't have to be long. If I need an image for a thumbnail that I'm making for a YouTube video or something like that, it can be as simple as, please make an image of a bald man with a beard using a laptop. Use of, I'm being self-referential.
Okay.
for use as a YouTube thumbnail video to try to drive engagement for Gen Z audience. That's the whole prompt, right? But that has goal, expectation, context, and source built right in. It's not even a sentence long. So don't be out there thinking that I'm telling you need to be writing a whole novel every time you prompt. That's not the case. It can be 10 words.
Yeah, it's awesome. Staying compliant while using AI. And this is just in general terms, not specific to my profession, just overall. Staying compliant with using AI.
Yeah, this goes back to that source conversation for sure. I have written down here that I wanted to talk about the importance of bias mitigation and removing subjectivity from judgment. So I think in many ways, when you're using an unemotional entity to help you with your decision making, compliance sort of gets a whole new meaning in that regard, because now we're not going in the field of my own judgments, my own bias. I'm just saying, listen, hey, ChatGPT, hey, Copilot, based on this document, and the document could be 700 pages long, because you can tell it to reference a document, a Word document, an Excel spreadsheet, whatever. Based on this, are the following assumptions correct?
Mm.
Or where might I have some compliance issues? I do this all the time, Brian, when I'm writing a script for a video or something. I'll say, here's my script. Am I risking any hot water? Am I making any legal claims? And am I opening myself up for scrutiny? And it will say, well, you did imply that, this laptop is the fastest on the planet. Are you sure you want to say that? So, okay, great. Thank you. So
Right.
that, for compliancy, I think it's actually a godsend if you get your prompting right.
And that's interesting, Brian. And so there's been a big spotlight on the appraisal profession for a few years now, talking about appraisal discrimination and potential bias
Yes.
and everything else. It's been a hot topic in our profession and really under the microscope. So, it's possible that an appraiser could upload some narrative that they wanted to put in a report and say, hey, I want you to check this and make sure I'm not doing something I shouldn't be doing. Is there a potential fair housing issue here? I'll tell you a true story. A true story. This isn't an appraising. This isn't real estate. This is a true story. It just happened. I was representing a buyer, and they wanted to write what some people might consider a love letter, right? So it was they wanted to buy a house, and
a dear seller letter.
Right. Found out that there were multiple offers, and they knew they weren't going to probably be the strongest financial offer in, so they wanted to write a love letter. And I'm like, I need to check with my broker on that. I don't know if they'll allow that, but you got to be real careful doing that. And she's like, well, I just said, I have a happy little family. And I'm like, okay. Familia status is a protected class, so you can't, I don't think you could do that, And she's like, really? And I'm like, I didn't write fair housing laws, right? I didn't write the Civil Rights Act of 1866. I didn't write the Equal Credit Opportunity Act, but you got to be careful. And so she's like, all right, I'll take all that out. And in the meantime, I'm calling my broker, and they're like, well, you can send us the letter. And so the young lady rewrote the letter, took all of those references out. I got it and looked at it, and I'm like, I sent it to my broker, and within 20 seconds, they sent back and said, nope, and sent me a list of why this letter wasn't appropriate. And I sent it back to him, and she's just like, I give up. I'm not sending a letter. But my point is, I sent back to my broker, and I said, isn't AI great? Because I think what they did, Brian, is just run it through. The
turnaround time was too fast.
Yeah. I think they just ran it through an AI mechanism to say, hey, will you search this for legal compliance and fair housing, and if this. And she came back and based her decision on those results and said, no, we're not going to, you cannot submit that. So, so staying compliant, they're talking about guardrails and things. This can help you in that setting. The last item, and I'm going to tweak it a little bit. The last bulleted item says, where is it heading for appraisers? But I'm going to say heading for appraisers and the rest of the world. You said it's like a tsunami's coming. I'm going to end there. When we were together, you pointed and you were like, it's like a tsunami is right. I mean, here it is. It's about to hit us, and no one knows. So talk about that for a minute.
I don't want to get too existential. I don't want to get too Star Trek on everybody here, but it's bewildering. I spend a lot of time jumping in. I get roped in last minute to some conference or something because someone says, "Oh, actually, you know what? Brian will talk to us about AI," and so I'll show up, and then I'll say, who out there is? What's your experience? I'll try to do an assessment of what everyone's experience is with these chat bots and stuff. And oh yeah, I used it to write a poem for my wife for our anniversary. Okay. I used it to help my daughter with her algebra homework. Okay. So the fact that there is still such a small sliver of society who's getting on board, and here's the weird thing for you. Check this out. I do so many trainings for Gen Z influencers, content creators. They are as ignorant, and please respect how I'm using the term ignorant. I'm not saying it in a negative way. I'm just saying they lack the knowledge and experience. They are ignorant of this. they are as ignorant of AI as people in their 60s.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it is. I think it's just because they grew up in a Snapchat generation. They're not using technology. They're just using apps that are fun and engaging. They're not thinking about the fact that, wait a minute, I just got assigned to do an essay on Hamlet. Why aren't I having a brainstorming session with a Hamlet expert that is in my phone or on my computer all the time? This is the tsunami. It's right there for those who are about ready to jump on board. I don't care what generation you're in. I don't care what your technical aptitude are. If you are willing to dip your toe in, to just start incorporating this stuff into your daily workflow, it's like indoor plumbing. Once you experience it, there's no going back to the outhouse. It's just a different way of life.
Brian, I really appreciate you taking the time to be here today. We got through all 5 talking points, and I'm excited about that. But I've got about 500 more questions for you. Yeah. Could I talk you into coming back and maybe bringing you back on the program again? I'd love to have you on a future episode.
It would be so fun. I have so much stuff to show. I have demos I can show you and ways to incorporate this stuff in a practical sense. We've genuinely just scratched the surface here. So yeah, it'd be a lot of fun.
That's great. Well, I will be in Bowling Green actually on a regular basis, so I will treat you to dinner, and you and your wife, whatever. Let's get together.
I think it's the least you could do.
Let's get together, and I'll make it a little better than a cup of coffee. So thank you so much for being here, Brian. If one of my viewers or listeners would like to reach out to you, is there a way that they can contact you?
Sure. Yeah, I don't have a public presence. I don't have my company. I don't do anything like that. I have very little entrepreneurial spirit, much to my wife's chagrin. But feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn, or just send me an email. There's only one of me out there. So if you just look up Brian Govatos, Govatos, you'll find me, no problem.
Very good. Well, thank you very much for spending some time with me today, and thanks for eavesdropping in our conversation. I really appreciate you doing that. And guys, this just goes to show you never know who you're sitting next to. You never know who you might strike up a conversation with. And look at the information and the advice that we got today. So, Brian, thank you very much for being here. I truly appreciate your time.
Great chatting with you.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to the Appraisal Update Podcast. I just want to close with saying this. Brian said something pretty profound a while ago, and I wrote it down. I think I got it right. I wrote the second part down, and then I'm like, oh, yeah, then he said this. So I'm going to share that with you. The first part is what he said was, AI is not going to take your job. That's what it said. AI is not going to take your job. But, you see but there, AI is not going to take your job, appraisers, but someone that knows AI will. And I believe that to be true. You don't have to be afraid of AI, all right? A lot of folks resisted getting a cell phone. And, sometimes I want to throw mine away. If you haven't unplugged, I recommend you do that. Turn your phone off for a day. Oh, I can't do that. Yes, you can. You'll probably be glad you did. Unplug for a day. I challenge you to do that, and you'll probably be glad you did. But guys, this AI is going to be bigger than the cell phone you're carrying in your pocket. It already is. But to Brian's point, people just don't realize it. So do yourself a favor. If you're not mobile in the field, I asked this in my class the other day, 30%. Only 30% were mobile in the field. Get you a tablet, get mobile in the field. Continue to learn. Continue to expand your knowledge. Because at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, while to Brian's point, you can have it write a poem. You can have it write a love letter to your significant other. Knowledge is power. And power, my friends, is money. I hope you're doing well. I hope you stay safe. Make some of that money. Until next time, I'm your host, Brian Reynolds, for Brian Govatos. Happy appraising.
The Appraisal Update Podcast is brought to you by Appraiser eLearning.